I was hoping to be able to come onto this podcast after Manchester United's loss at Brighton and talk about levels of maturity and, you know, improvements, the positives out of what I've seen from Manchester United early in this season. But obviously, United get nailed with a 90+5 injury time winner, don't they, from Joao Pedro, and they lose to Brighton. It's unfortunate. I'm Scott from the Promised Land podcast, and I'll try and give you some of my thoughts in reaction to that. Really disappointing. Really, really disappointing. Damaging, we'll see, but disappointing, gut wrenching, somewhat unlucky, somewhat deserved defeat to Brighton. It's just I've needed some time because I've got to be honest, I was quite miffed at the fact that they lost that. I spent the last 10 minutes saying, don't you dare lose this, don't you dare lose this, don't you dare lose this. And what do you know? They ended up losing it because I've seen that before. And look, I'll give you some thoughts for 30 odd minutes or so, but there's a stat from Opta Joe, which was put out just after the full-time whistle. Since 2022-23, that season, Man United have lost more Premier League games thanks to goals scored in the 90th minute plus stoppage time than any other side, which is 6. And they'd only lost 2 such games in the first 30 campaigns in the competition combined. Now that, if that is not evidence of a mentality problem, a lack of concentration problem, that coincides with Eric Ten Hag. Actually, I'm sure there's going to be people who are blaming him today, and yes, he's not faultless, of course, and I will delve into what went wrong. But that is concerning. It's really, really concerning. But what I will say is, I don't think this is a day to absolutely lose your head and to absolutely think that this is the end and think, while certain radio stations and media throughout the next week, I'm sure ahead of the Liverpool game, go, well, Eric Ten Hag's not very good, is he? Man United are in the mud. You can bet your bottom dollar that they're going to milk every single second of the week or so until United play Liverpool with content around how Man United are just the same. They'll never be fixed and all this. And look, guys, I think that's just the way that we've come to. That's what we've come to expect nowadays. That's the way that it is, and it's unfortunate because United should be not making the mistakes they're making. They should be competing at the top of the league. But when you fall from standards as much as they have, patterns like this, they need to be fixed, but they keep coming up. I was hoping today I'd be able to come on here and talk about the good things, but obviously there's just some stuff, really, really important stuff, and including the lack of points. They should have at least taken a point out of that game. That's gonna tint the glasses and tint things with negative. And yeah, I'll do my best to dig through my thoughts here. I've got some notes to run alongside from what I thought about the match. But if you're checking this out for the first time on audio or video, this is the Promised Land podcast with me, Scott. You can find the pod on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube as well. So please subscribe to the channel. I do my best to bring you some reasoned analysis. It's difficult at the moment. It's difficult at the moment, but reasoned, and I don't think it's as bad as people are going to be making out over the next few days. But this ship is going to take a long time to turn around, and these hiccups on the way are inevitable. You just don't want them to be as regular as they feel at the moment, especially off the back of such a bad season last year in the league. But please follow me on social as well at @Scott Saunders on Instagram, TikTok, and X as well. Bunch of followers after the last Instagram plug the other day. Thanks so much. Please head on over there and give me a follow as well. I do need to ramp up that social page to reach as many people as I can. But yes, look, today, or I'm speaking after 45 minutes after the Brighton game finished, heard from Eric Ten Hag, who said he substituted Mason Mount because of injury concerns at half time. Knowing his injury record, he didn't really want to take the risks. We'll see how bad that is going to be over the next few days. hopefully for his sake, it's not. But look, United named the same team as last week, and what we saw for the first 25 minutes, I was quite impressed with. Actually, was. Uh, I understand the concern from people when you see the lack of cutting edge, and I completely get that. That's absolutely valid, and I understand that people will want to see a striker like Joshua Zirkzee start there. Obviously, Rasmus Højlund's out injured at the moment because you lack a focal point, really. But what a trend that I've noticed from the first two games is United have stuck with this. I think they stuck with this formation for about 60 minutes in the first game against Fulham, and for the first half against Brighton. I'll call it up to 25 minutes ish because I thought United were actually the better team until Brighton scored the first goal. But what you're seeing in that system is look, I'm not saying this is the United overall, but there is a lot more competence in there. It looks like the pressing plan is working. The space is condensed between defense and the attack. The midfield is much more difficult to penetrate through, and we saw last season that United was so easy to get at through the center. But there are signs, and look, United are always going to be judged by results, but at the same time, the question is asked so often: what's United's style of play? What's United's style of play? What's United's style of play? They're working on it. Like it's not going to just magically, appear. And yes, some managers can do it, but United, and I've said this so often, have not been buying players with a competent plan to fit a certain style for a decade. It's only in the last couple of years that United have started to do it, and there's still players in the team that are not really fit for it and won't be fit for it in the future. But there were some improvements. There were some, and it's important to, as much as the result is an awful one today, it's important to remember that this is going to be a long slog, and you want to see incremental improvements. And the criticism for Erik ten Hag has been not only about results, but style of play has so often come up and marked against his name. I think what we're seeing in the early weeks of the season is that there's evidence that one is coming and one is being worked on. The counter pressing I thought was really good at points today. It was really good against Fulham as well at points. It's not being able to be maintained throughout an entire 90 minutes because it's just difficult to do, and the system changes as well. I've noticed impact how United are playing when Joshua Zirkzee comes on and like Bruno Fernandes kind of drops in a little bit. United are much easier to play through, which is a little bit of a concern, but United do get more in the attacking third when they change it around. So it's half a dozen one, half a dozen of the other at the moment. But look, Ten Hag kept the same 11 going into this with Harry Maguire starting, obviously Zirkzee on the bench and Casemiro in midfield. And for a time, I thought United were quite good. I actually thought they were quite good. Amad had an early chance that he spooned wide, which he probably should have done better with. But then, and this is the concern really, you really want to see United starting to eradicate these bad habits out of their game. But both United's goals today that they conceded came from crosses. And it is incredibly annoying. It's incredibly annoying to see the same mistakes are being made over and over again. And I'm definitely don't want to put blame on people, but I was hoping today that Matthias de Ligt would get the start in central defense. I understand why, and people are going to look at Erik ten Hag's team selection and think, oh, why hasn't he done that? That's weird. You understand it. I mean, de Ligt has barely had a pre-season. He's been away at the Euros. He's come back, had a transfer to deal with, and he's only been training with United for a week or so. And yes, Erik ten Hag might be hesitant of putting him in straight away. I was hoping he'd start, but he went with Maguire, and it's understandable because Ten Hag has talked about squad depth quite frequently and a lot over the last few weeks. And obviously United's injury troubles last year meant that they didn't have the depth that they actually did because they couldn't utilize it. But for me, I think people might pin blame on Casemiro for the first goal. Nah, for me, I think that is completely avoided if Harry Maguire does what Matthias de Ligt did towards the end of the game when he came on and is proactive in clearing the cross that came in. I think for me, that goal doesn't happen if Maguire just attacks the first ball and puts it out for a corner or puts it out for a throw-in. Like, I think that split second of hesitancy has allowed the ball to go across him. The ball goes to the back post and then comes back across, and Danny Welbeck's unmarked. Obviously, it's had to be Danny Welbeck today, didn't it? I saw as well before the game, 99 career goals for Danny Welbeck, United Academy graduate, of course. Started his career with United, has a habit of scoring against United as well. And of course, he gets his 100th. Of course he does. I could really see that before the game even started, because this is just what United do at the moment. They are not there. They are not your fully fledged, fully formed team yet. And it's really, really quite annoying. But Ten Hag in his post-match press conference as well, or his post-match interview with TNT, said United didn't act correctly in the moment with either goal that they conceded. And I think I'll come on to the later goal, obviously, a little bit later on. But with the first goal as well, I think, look, you want defenders to be all things nowadays. You want them to be all singing, all dancing, be able to be quick, covering space behind them, be proactive with coming out and intercepting passes, be good on the ball, have great defensive instincts and all this kind of stuff. But like basics really of just clearing crosses and not allowing them to pass you, I think it's a mistake that Harry Maguire made, I think. And yeah, maybe I'm being a little bit critical on him, but I don't think the goal happens if he just goes and attacks the ball. But, that's how it was. And United managed to make it to half time with the game at 1-0. I thought they were quite unlucky. I really did, because we're getting with this 4-2-4 or whatever it is, with Bruno and Mount as the front two, or that the press is a lot better. It's about now trying to find a way to make the press and the compactness as good as it is with that team, but with a striker on the pitch. And like, we're not getting that at the moment. So Joshua Zirkzee came on at half time. The formation changed. And I thought, honestly, up until United scored with Amad, that period before they scored after half time was the worst spell that they had in the game. Probably. Maybe up until the later stages. It was the worst spell they had in the game. And Brighton, in a sense, scored against the run of play. And I thought United scored against the run of play as well in the second half. It's a concerning trend, they completely lose control of matches when Xerxes on the pitch. And I this was a concern for me in the game against Fulham as well. Obviously, we saw Xerxes come on the pitch the other day against Fulham, and things tended to open up a little bit. And you saw Fulham being able to penetrate and run through United's midfield because something had changed, and Bruno was maybe a little bit deeper, and that front two was not exactly a front two. It was more of a like Bruno dropping off him. Easier to play through, and it is a concern. But what United do get on the other side is Joshua Zirkzee, who didn't score today. God, I'll talk about that goal in a second. He didn't score today, obviously, but I really like what I've seen of him so far. I really, really do. He looks very calm in possession, big, strong lad, really good feet. And I think that once he gets up and running, I think this kid is going to be really beneficial to the attack that United have. And we all know at the moment that United are really having trouble scoring goals. And yeah, it's going to take time to click. Unfortunately, how much time is Erik ten Hag going to be afforded this year for it to click? Like, this is not the be all and end all. This is not the end. This is not. It's a punch in the gut, isn't it? But it's not the worst result in the world. But United need to respond properly after this. And the fact that they even came back into the game and managed to score the goal that Amad scored, you know, some positive in that, because I've seen this United team over the last few years fall 1-0 down at Brighton and get absolutely smashed, absolutely hammered. And maybe me talking about that kind of like minuscule improvement of being able to react and bounce back into the game by equalizing, maybe I'm looking at United being so far below the standards everyone expects. Oh, you know. But look, this is where United are coming from. They absolutely have to be aspiring to get back to the levels that they were at under Ferguson, but it's step by step, you know. And just a word for Ahmad a minute. I mean, full credit to him, sending him love and obviously everything after the news around his stepmother in the week, said to have requested to play in the game today despite losing her. And, you know, it's a testament to the lad that he wanted to play and that he did actually affect the game. Uh, Obviously got his first goal of the season as well. I'm not sure if is that going to get credited as an own goal. I'm not entirely sure yet. It's only an hour or so after the game is finished. I'm not sure how that's going to go. But yeah, I mean, him being on the pitch and playing for most of the game, you know, credit to him. Ironically, though, I thought that, and maybe this is a thing when Alejandro Garnacho comes back onto the pitch, I think that United are really missing something with Garnacho as well. So when I talk about the lineup being the same over the past 2 weeks or the past 2 match rounds, the 2 changes that I think United are going to need to make at some point soon. And maybe the Liverpool game is a bit too early. I don't know. If this was, say, Ipswich, who, as I record this, are actually beating Manchester City. Are they still? No, they're now 3-1 down, obviously. That is incredible. I started recording when Ipswich were 1-0 up, and now Erling Haaland, who I wildcarded to put in my FPL team today, has scored a penalty and another goal, and Kevin De Bruyne scored as well. So it's 3-1 to City. Anyway, but my point is, if United weren't playing Liverpool next week, maybe Ten Hag could afford to just throw these guys in. Maybe another week's worth of training will be good for them, but it's a big risk to go into that game against Liverpool and go with, to a degree, untested players in the system that United are playing. But we'll see how it goes. Obviously, there's 8 days now till United play Liverpool, and I'll definitely be back in the next few days to look ahead to that one and to reflect a bit more on what United are doing, because this is the last week of the transfer window as well, over the next week. But yeah, I think, look, I'm talking about Xerxes there and De Ligt, by the way, in terms of the new faces. But Alejandro Garnacho, for me, is as threatening an attacker as United have at the moment. And maybe you can put Amad into that box. But Garnacho's directness, especially with Joshua Xerxes, maybe dropping in a little bit from that right-hand side. I really like him out there. I really do. We didn't see him there today. He came on for Marcus Rashford, but I really do like him out there. And I would really like to see him have a good run. But yeah, I think he'll definitely come back in next week for me. Just in which position on the flanks, I'm not sure. But look, I got back into the game. I'm doing this in chronological order, by the way, so please stick with me. But if I veer off into different directions, but look, this is the disallowed goal. Is completely correct. It is. It's absolutely correct, and it's such awful bad luck. It is such awful bad luck that Xerxes managed to slide in, hoping to tap in the cross from Bruno Fernandes, who passed it to Garnacho at the back post, and then for Garnacho to, I can't even criticize him because it was going in, obviously, but he's obviously directed the ball right back across goal, and it looked like it would probably hit the far post and go in, but obviously Xerxes' knee from his slide is in the way of the ball. And it's literally a few centimeters or whatever from actually being legitimately given a goal. Or maybe if Garnacho angled the ball a little bit differently, it doesn't even cross Xerxes' path. But God, how's your luck, eh? How is your luck? The good thing about that is I think it's a reminder that United do have that counter-attacking transition threat. Obviously, Amad picks the ball up on the right and Bruno overlaps him, and they manage to work a 4-on-3 situation in the middle, towards the middle third or towards the final third of the game. And look, if that goes in, we're talking about if United can hold on to a 2-1 lead rather than hold on to a 1-1 draw. And then I'm probably going to be cursing the luck that Man United have conceded a 90th minute equaliser instead of a 90th minute win. But look, that was a lovely goal, and it's just incredibly unlucky. I don't know whether people are going to, in the week ahead, I'm sure that people will make fun of that. I'm sure Xerxes will get a bit of stick, but I just thought it was generally unlucky. And what can you do? What can you do? I think it just sums up United as they are at the moment. But what I exactly said after that was, now we will learn. Now we will learn after such a difficult or unlucky moment in a match where United could have taken the lead. Now we will learn about how much Man United have matured. There is no way, there is absolutely no way United should be letting that game get away from them. A point is fine. A point is fine at Brighton. They have an absolutely rotten record at Brighton. And look, I'm sure all of us, everybody listening or watching this, I'm sure we'd have all taken a point at Brighton. We definitely would have. And look, there will be a point where United need to start winning these games if they're to compete at the higher reaches of the league. But Brighton are a very, very well run football club. They have a lot of talented players. They have an identified playing style, and they've been hiring managers for years based on that playing style. Whereas Man United are light years behind what they're doing in the sense of like implementing from top to bottom what the style is and buying players for that style. United are just starting their journey, but Brighton very good, and they've given United the runaround at Old Trafford and at the Amex a good few times over the past few years. But there was just a part of me that I think deep down I knew that United would end up giving something stupid away towards the end. And I was trying to tell myself, no, look, there's improvements. They've turned the page and they're not quite that team anymore. And there are still definitely elements, and I'm absolutely really want to stress this, is there's still definitely elements of improvement in what United are doing, even though over the next week you might see the world melting down because United have lost a game. That's just the way that it is. When Man United lose a game, Man United lose a game, and it's the end of the world every time. They have to react next weekend. But this was a test, having lost that goal, or that goal getting disallowed correctly, by the way, no complaints about it. Just bad luck, isn't it? But that was a test for me on how much United have matured. What I wanted to see in that final stretch of the match was United to get their head down and keep going. And they ended up losing control, which is really sad. It's really, really disappointing. And I completely understand if people are irritated at that. Like there's no way they should have lost. They should not have lost. And this is a game that could have gone either way. Obviously, I said somewhere before the game that this could be either any of the three results. It would not shock me at all. Brighton win, United win, or a draw. And it turns out we were just very close to draw, very close to United win. And in the end, you get the Brighton win. But look, there's some positives to take out of this, but people will not tolerate this kind of thing for long. They will not tolerate, and it's really difficult to stomach it. They will not tolerate being in the 95th minute, essentially losing control of the game. There was one team pushing for the win towards the end and in injury time, and it was Brighton. United were kind of hanging in there, waiting to hold on, hoping for a draw. And you cannot leave three players unmarked at the back post. You just cannot do it. I'll come back to that stat that I mentioned at the start of the podcast as well. Since 2022-23, United have lost more Premier League games thanks to goals scored in the 90th minute plus stoppage time than any other side, 6. They had only lost 2 such games in the first 30 campaigns combined. United used to be all about scoring late winners, and now they're all about conceding them. And it's It's a mentality problem. It absolutely is. And I'm obviously gonna. I'm just seeing my Twitter feed. It's obviously 2 games into the new Ineos era, and absolutely nothing has changed. They are absolutely frauds, all of them. Look, we're embroiled nowadays in like social media and immediate immense reaction. Everything is the worst thing that's ever happened, or everything is the best thing that's ever happened. It's just not the case. But it doesn't mean it's any less sickening than it is. It's just really, really irritating, isn't it? But look, you cannot be leaving 3 players unmarked at the back post. Diogo Dallo was over the right side next to Mazraoui, trying to defend the cross from coming back in. And I don't know whether it's his fault or maybe somebody should have covered him, and they all sensed where people were, and maybe you kind of fan back across to cover the massive space that they'd left on their left-hand side of the fence or Brighton's right side. And Joao Pedro knocks in a header, and that's just the way that it is. But the lack of concentration, I talk about the differences in style of play and how United need to evolve and how they have a lot of things to fix. Mentality is such a big one. Lack of concentration is such a big one. And we've seen this one too many times before. And we can talk about like getting different players in all we want and getting different players in to evolve the style of play. And that's definitely a thing. I'm sure Manuel Ugarte's tenacity will help United in what we're talking about, winning the ball back with a much more energetic press from back to front. I'm sure he will fit in with that. But you got to have a little bit more metal about you. You got to have a little bit more steel. You got to have a know-how of how to just get through the final stages of matches, because we've seen this far too often. And in the end, look, Erik ten Hag has to fix it. And I've been very, very much a preacher to give him time. And obviously I'm still in that camp, but it is season 3. And if problems like that don't show signs of being sewn up and disappear, who's going to get the criticism, who's going to get the stick. It's United have to do better than that. And there will be a time where I'm sitting here, or there are people going to these matches, and we're saying that cannot happen anymore. I don't know whether we can go and expect United to go and beat Brighton currently at the Amex. But when you're in a position like you are, 1-1, 94th minute, just get the draw. Just get the draw. And that's kind of how I feel. I'm sure that there's a lot of you who are thinking the same thing. I'm sure there's plenty of criticism and frustration that United aren't taking the chances or creating enough chances. And that's definitely a valid point. But just isolated in that moment, you just have to be better. They just have to be better than that. And this is an evolution. This is a learning process. These players, progress is being made. Like I've seen the first 2 games and comparing it to last season, there's definitely progress being made, and you just want to see it underlined with results. And I said in last week's podcast after the Fulham game, I said, just enjoy this. Enjoy the fact that United have won a game and we're able to go through the week without much criticism at all, because the moment that a loss comes or the moment a bad result comes, where it's coming from. And I'm sorry to say, you might have to put your phone down. Might have to get off social media a little bit for the next few days, because you know exactly what's coming. And look, there's reasons for concern. There's reasons to be positive as well, but never too high, never too low, as Rob would say. And look, I think this is the first time I've ever really done a podcast on my own just after a raw defeat like that. But there will come a time where we expect a lot more of United than I'm talking about now. I just want to see competence. And I think that's the most important thing. I saw signs of competence throughout the game today, just not for long enough. Competence, intelligence, steel. There's some steel coming back in, but doing silly things at silly times is not optimal. And with Liverpool to come next week, if United lose in Old Trafford next week, I think we're in the region again of international break. Erik ten Hag is on the verge of the sack. And like, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but that's going to be the feeling around the media. That's the way that's going to be. I don't think United will be that rash at all. That's not the case. But for Erik ten Hag's sake, he's got to get a result next week now. And just to quell the noise. Unless he's not bothered by it. I don't know. But it's certainly difficult, isn't it, to kind of operate through like office life or like through social media when you see that there's a silly defeat as that. Because it was silly. And credit to Brighton, to be fair, they took the chances. They had their moments throughout the day as well, and they got the better of United on the day, but this could have been different. And fingers crossed at some point we will see that maturity in United's game and that competence come back, but not to be just yet. Anyway, I will be back in the next few days, early next week, to talk about probably the impending sign of Manuel Ugarte. Maybe Jadon Sancho is left out of the squad completely, might be on his way out of United to Juventus or to somewhere else over the next few days. So I'll come back and talk about that as well, and plus anything else that is happening. It's the final week of the transfer window with a Europa League draw to the end of next week, towards the end of next week, and the Liverpool game, obviously, next Sunday at Old Trafford as well. But look, I've been Scott Saunders, __ Scott Saunders on Instagram, TikTok, and X as well. Please give me a follow on there. Maybe I'll make a TikTok as well because I'm that cool nowadays, just on my thoughts on what I've said here. But look, give me a follow on there, specifically IG as well, please. It would be really helpful if you did end up doing it. The link will be in the description of the show as well on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. But yeah, please subscribe to the channel as well. If you want more of this, let me know. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments as well. Am I on the right lines? Do you feel any differently? Let me know how you're feeling, because I understand that's going to be a raw one when you lose in the 95th minute. It's not very nice at all. But mixed bag today. I think it's just you really wish United would have come through that with a point instead of none. I mixed up my 0 and none there, but no points, nil point for United from today's game. But look, please get in touch with me. As I say, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching this rambling. Hopefully it was coherent. But yeah, remember, guys, never too high, never too low. Important, especially on a day like today. I've been Scott. Until next time, this has been the Promised Land podcast.